Yo YouTube! This is my video for Wednesday the 27th of November. It's obviously you can see it's a very rainy, overcast day at the moment. But I have got a pretty good job to start the day off with. I left the house at around about 7:05 so that I can get some fuel on the way to my pickup. And the pickup was just outside of Stamford, which was 24 miles drive away, about 40 minutes. And so I managed to get on site for my pickup on time at 8 o'clock. When I arrived though, the gates were closed. There was some lights on, but the gates closed. And I sort of got in my van and I saw a forklift driver doing some work, and eventually he finished doing what he was doing, and he came over and opened the gates. And then I picked up my pallet, and I'm taking this pallet to Washington in the northeast. It's 174 loaded miles, 174, and I've got 180 pounds for this job, 180. And I'm on my way now to the drop-off, and I should be there around about 11:30, which gives me a decent opportunity to get a job back down towards my home area. However, I've had a bit of a epiphany maybe, and I want to tell you about that. And it's something that makes a lot of sense to me. So I've been spending a bit of time on YouTube watching a guy called Rory Sutherland, who's a marketing expert, and he has a really good way of describing his ideas. And one of the ideas, because he's based on marketing, which is about creativity, one of those ideas is along the idea of, to be creative, you need to be able to be, to some extent, irrational or illogical, to go against the prevailing wisdom. Because by doing that, you then create new opportunities and new solutions. And one of the phrases that he says a lot, which I quite like, is that sometimes the opposite of a good idea is another good idea. Now, in the logical world, the opposite of something is usually very different. So in my world, my logical thinking world, the opposite of good is bad. But obviously, there is more than one good idea. And it doesn't mean that a good idea that works, if you do the opposite, doesn't mean that also wouldn't work. So I quite like that idea, and the reason why it suits my character is it means it ties in with my stubborn streak about not fitting in with other people's prevailing opinions. Slight aside, I hope you can hear me. Obviously there's a lot of background noise with the rain and the windscreen wipers, but I'm going to just persevere. And I'm someone who doesn't like to just follow the crowd. In many respects, I am a very normal, vanilla person. I don't have a lot of unusual aspects to my life. But when it comes to being told what to do by other people, or following the crowd with trends, or with hyped things, like a hyped film, I just don't tend to do that. I'd rather do the opposite. And so I was thinking about this job and how I could sort of apply that thinking to this job. And I think a good example is the job I did on Monday going to Chichester from Wrexham. The prevailing wisdom would be you don't do that job because you're going to end up miles from home and you've got a lot of dead miles. But at the end of that day, I'd made over £250 after fuel. So it worked. And I'm happy to work a long day. It wasn't hard work. And I enjoyed it. So my thinking now is, why don't I just encompass that thinking a bit more? I do, to some extent, do the unusual jobs, but I'm going to do that a bit more. I'm going to focus, I think, or try to focus on doing those jobs which don't necessarily make much sense at first sight, but they're jobs, therefore, that other people wouldn't do. And therefore, there's less competition for those jobs from other drivers. My thinking is, if I try and do the same as everyone else is doing, I'm never going to be able to compete with that, because I'm trying to work off the CX as my sole income. I don't use it as a backload site, I use it as my main source of income. Whereas there are other people who have their own customers who use the CX as just a job to get home at the end of the day. So if I'm going to behave in the same way that they behave, I'm never going to be able to compete with those drivers. So I need to, I think, be a bit more creative with how I do this, and providing the outcome I achieve is the right amount of money at the end of the week that I've earned, I don't really mind or care how I achieve that. So the prevailing wisdom is you reduce your dead miles. You don't do dead miles. The prevailing wisdom is that you get your own customers and then you get a backload off the CX to get yourself home. The prevailing wisdom is that you mustn't go down below a certain amount of money because you won't be able to make enough money to live off. This is about pence per mile for the job. And I don't want to be misunderstood. I'm not saying they are all bad ideas. They're not. They're very rational, good ways of working, particularly if you're trying to grow a business. But I'm not trying to grow a business. I'm trying to make enough money for me and my family. And therefore, I can sort of bend those rules a little bit and it will work for me. So I think it makes a lot of sense that I need to be a bit more creative about what jobs I take, what I'm prepared to do, as long as I get the outcome that I need at the end of the day. And my last point about this, bearing in mind that I'm going to probably do longer days, that's the outcome of this, I'm going to assume a longer day, give myself a chance to earn more money. But I need to combine that with a bit more considered bidding on those unusual jobs. And I think I could probably go a bit higher with my bids on those jobs that are particularly unpopular. And I just need to gauge where that figure is. And what I need to do is do a few, miss out on a few jobs, but eventually I'll get an idea about, for an evening job, going to a bad area, bad as in a quiet area, where can I gauge the pricing compared to what I would expect to get? And I think that's a question of learning a bit more about that, and we'll see how it goes. But I feel that that's a bit of light at the end of the tunnel for me to get myself out of survival mode and more into sustainable. Now I've made this public now, so obviously you might be expecting it to happen today or tomorrow. It's going to be over the next few months, particularly over the quiet period. the traditional quiet period. I'm going to have to be very creative during that period to sort of make a living. But I think there's not a lot of drivers that would approach this job with that sort of mindset. And I think that's where my niche can be. So we'll see. I find it an interesting challenge, at least. It makes my brain work a bit harder about what I'm doing. And obviously I'll let you know over time how it goes as a strategy. What I'm choosing to do in this case is I'm choosing to sacrifice some aspects of my comfort. Like having a longer work day is not necessarily what one would choose, but I can sacrifice that because it's having a long work day doing this isn't that difficult. It's not like I'm standing up all day, not like I'm serving customers all day. So making my day 2 or 3 hours longer isn't really a significant factor for this job. So I may as well try doing that. And going to unusual areas, I mean, the worst case scenario is I have to dead mile it home after that. But if I've incorporated that in the cost of the day, it's not really an issue, is it? Well, that's not for me anyway. Okay, I'm going to leave this video here. I hope you heard that okay. And I'll let you know how my search for my next job goes. I'm expecting it to be very quiet in the northeast, and part of my plan might be to drive down to the Leeds area, which I think is about an hour and a half from Washington. So that will be something I can do if I need to, and then we'll see how today pans out. Okay, just a quick update. I've arrived at Washington at 10 past 11, and I've got offloaded and used their toilets by 25 past 11, and now I'm looking for work. I've just pulled off their site and come down the road a little bit. I'm on an industrial estate at the moment. A couple of points of interest. As I came into Washington, it said Washington, the original one, on the sign, which I thought was quite apt and humorous. And then I got, as I was on my way up, there was quite a few jobs that I bid on as I was sort of an hour or so away from my drop-off. I went gradually cheaper as I went through the jobs, but I didn't get any of them. And now I've arrived, it's gone completely blank. There's no jobs. But I'm optimistic. It's 11:30 now. Optimistic that if I hang around for a bit, something will come up and I can at least bid on it. And what I'll do is, if it doesn't happen in the next sort of half an hour, 3/4 of an hour, I'll head down towards Leeds, which is about an hour and 10 minutes away, and see how my luck goes there. I think it's probably worth driving during the sort of 1 to 2 o'clock time. That tends to be quite quiet. I had a look at the feed, and there's about 22 active drivers in the whole of the northeast area, sort of around Newcastle on Tyne. But there's probably about 13 active drivers quite close to me, spread out but quite close. I'll stick I'll put, probably at this point I'll put a map up to show you what I'm seeing. So there is a reasonable number of drivers to compete with jobs for. So there's a reasonable number of drivers competing for jobs. But I'm at this moment, my mood is optimistic, and I'm going to try my best to get a job heading south. I'll go anywhere south. I'll go anywhere, literally. I wouldn't go probably as far as Cornwall and Devon, but I would go to Somerset, definitely. I would go to South Wales. I would go to London. I would go to the South Coast from here, definitely. And we'll see what happens. Okay, quick update. I found the last hour quite interesting. There has been absolutely no work, apart from one job at the start of the hour going to Aberdeen for tomorrow. There's been no other jobs come up. On the way up, I bid on 5 or 6 jobs, which is pretty much all the jobs that came out, and that looks quite busy. but right now it's gone very quiet. And I've been here now for just over an hour. It's just gone 12:30, and I've found it a really fascinating hour because I spent the time looking at all the drivers that were around me and just getting some sort of idea about what was going on. So I'll give you some stats on this. I'll do a screenshot that shows most of the drivers, and these are the ones that are the green dots on the system. So of those, there's about 20 or so drivers that are active. Of those, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 of those I would classify as being local drivers. So either based in Newcastle or Seaham or Chestler Street or Sunderland, all Blythe, around this area. So I've sort of discounted. I'm not really competing against those drivers. Obviously, it's an assumption. I can't assume that for sure, but I'm taking out those drivers in terms of my concern. Of those drivers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So half of them are small van drivers. There's a short wheelbase and a medium wheelbase. There's a flatbed, which I don't think I would be competing with. And then there's 1, 2 extra long wheelbase vans. So if I was to get a long wheelbase van job, I don't think many of those local drivers would even be able to do it. But then the more interesting thing is the non-local drivers. So as of now, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 drivers over quite a large area, from down to Durham up to the north bit of Newcastle. So I'm in the centre of that bit, and I've got my number now: 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. And of these are the places that these people are coming from. And so there's one from Montrose in Scotland. I can't imagine I'm going to be competing with them. There's a Bridlington one, which is a YO postcode. I don't think they were going that far south. There is a Birmingham, a Walsall, and a Leeds. There's a Manchester, there's a Blackburn, and there's a Doncaster. There's a London and a Maidstone, and then there's a Poole. Furthest one away is Poole. And of those, most of those, I would think, are larger vans. So we've got 3 Lutons, 1, 2, 3 extra long wheelbases, and 1, 2 long wheelbases, and then we've got 2 medium wheelbases and 1 short wheelbase. So it is interesting that, probably obvious to some people, that the local drivers are more predominantly small van, and the foreign drivers, including myself, are more larger vans. But it's interesting to see that, and I've seen some of these drivers who are sort of not from this area moving around, travelling quite long distances. And where I am at the moment is quite sparse. So I'm going to stick it out for another hour, I think, and just see how the day goes. I think we're in the middle of the lunchtime lull at the moment. So I'm going to just stick it out for another hour and see if it gets busier. And then if I do get a chance to bid on some work, I can sort of decide what to go with. But it's interesting to see that there's... Well, I find it interesting to see this list of drivers. One of the small van drivers I must give out a shout out to, because it's White Knight Couriers. He's moving around. He's on his way to South Shields. I think he might live in South Shields, so maybe he's going home. But he's active on the CX, and he's moving. So I hope you're well, Dave, and good luck with whatever you're doing today. Right, see ya. Right, YouTube people, I'm back. It's now 2:15. I've been here for nearly 3 hours. For 11:30 was the start. And I'm finding this incredibly interesting, incredibly intriguing is the word, because I'm sort of monitoring the other drivers and what they're doing. And it's fascinating, I must say. I'm finding it ridiculously interesting. There is no jobs coming in. I've now got a future journey set for Washington to Washington for the whole of the afternoon till 5 o'clock. And I'm also on the desktop app on my iPad, and there's 2 jobs on there later on today, but I can't do them. One's for delivery tomorrow, and one's an alcohol one that needs an Android app to be downloaded, which I'm not going to do. So there's been probably, I would say, including those 2 that I can't do, there's been 3 jobs posted in this area that I'm aware of since 11:15, and one was going to Scotland, which I couldn't do. So there's been no jobs that I could bid on. When I was on my way up, I bid on 6 jobs as I was driving up towards Washington. That was between about 10:30 and 10:30 and 11:15. Anyway, so I've narrowed down my competition to 6 drivers. One driver has got, there was 8. One driver's got a job and he's on his way south. I don't know what job that was because it didn't come on the CX. Another driver has given up and he's just driving south. And the 6 that remain, they live in the following places: Corby, Leeds, Bridlington, Colchester, Poole and Slough. So that's interesting. They're all places I would go to. Yeah, absolutely. I didn't even get to Poole, to be honest, but I feel really bad. I would feel really bad taking the Poole job from someone who lives in Poole. So that is putting me off a bit, that one. But I'll see what it comes to. I'll put a bid on if it comes up, but I won't go very, very cheap, I think. I'll go mildly cheap. Anyway, and of those drivers, 3 of them have got Luton vans, so they may or may not be competitors for me. If I go... my question, I suppose, is this. If you have a Luton van and you're on the CX, would you ever or would you often bid on small van work? Because I don't know if you would, but maybe you would still. And then the other 3 are long wheelbases. So they're all long wheelbases or higher. And so I'll see what they're doing. There's a job come up from Durham to Toxteth, so I'm going to bid on that. Let me go and do this bid. Hello, I'm back. So update time. It is now 3:20. I'm still, as you can see, in the same place. The drivers around me has changed. There was originally 8 originals, and now there's only, of those 8, there's only now 2 left in the area. Those 2 haven't moved ever since I've been here. One's the Colchester guy, one's the Poole guy. So they may well be tramping out. Everyone else has left, apart from 2 who I think may have got jobs because they went from green to red as they were moving on the system. And then, as I've been waiting here, there's been more coming in from the north and driving through and down. So I'm keeping track of them. And at the moment, there are 3 drivers that potentially might be staying in the area, having come in from the north. One's a St Helens driver, one's a Leeds driver, one's a Doncaster driver. Now they may just be carrying on, moving on through. That's 2. The Leeds and Doncaster are both small small vans, and the other one's a Luton. So I'm going to assume for the time being that that's my 5 competitors. So 2 Lutons, 2 small vans, and a long wheelbase. And I have put a bid on a job, but it's not picking up until 5 o'clock, going from Newcastle to Sheffield. It's a small van job. It came on the system at about half an hour ago. And so I've not had a call yet, but equally it's not been sold yet. So I've sort of got half an eye on getting that job. It's 127 loaded miles. I'm about 15 minutes away. It's about 8 miles away. And if I get that job, I'll be on 280 for the day. But I'll have to wait till 5 o'clock or thereabouts to know. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful about that one. I put on 80p a mile as a bid per loaded mile, and so we'll see. So yes, I'm getting a little bit tired now, I must say. I'd like to be doing something now, and I'll let you know. Hopefully next time I'm talking to you, I've got some sort of a job. I don't think it's worth my while moving down to Leeds now that I've got this job on from Newcastle to Sheffield. So I'm going to stick it out here to the bitter end. Thank you. Look, I'm moving. I'm actually moving. It's just nearly 3:30. I've got a job. I was in the perfect place for this job, so I'm glad I waited 4 hours to get it. Oh gosh, it's Washington, 7 minutes away. It's 3 miles to get the pickup. It's a small van job going to Seaham. No, sorry, it's a long wheelbase van job going to Seaham, which is 11 miles away. So I should be done within about 45 minutes, and I've still got the chance to do my Newcastle to Sheffield job about 5 o'clock. That's still on the cards if it comes through. So that'd be great. But at the moment, £50, 50 for this job, and it should be really easy. I've done a little map. At the time that this came through, there was no one else anywhere near me. Anyone near me was small vans. Even the local guys were small vans. So I was really confident I'd get this job. I didn't do the £60, which is my sort of usual minimum. In usual times, my minimum charge job for a long wheelbase van is £60, but in these times, I'm happy with £50. And I'm really quite pleased about this. It's not even dark, and I've got a second job out of the northeast. Oh, the northeast has been my nemesis today, but it's been an interesting nemesis. I am 5 minutes away from the pickup, 2 miles away, and then I will be off to Seaham again. Been there recently, and then hopefully I'll get a call for the Newcastle to Sheffield job, and then that'll be my day perfectly capped off. Right, farewell. Hi there. Quick update. I've delivered my 2 pallets to Seaham, and then I turned around and I'm driving back towards the A1M near Durham. I put a bid on a job going from North Shields to Chorley. It's 147 loaded miles. I bid initially £140. I was about half an hour away from the pickup. It was a medium wheelbase van job. And then I changed my bids to £120, 120. I was on there for about 10-15 minutes. Nothing was happening. So I did ring them, and the lady said that she was waiting for a customer, but she'd had a quote that was lower than mine, and she probably wasn't going to go as high as 120 for the job. So I thanked her for letting me know, and gave up on that job. That got sold quite quickly after I made the call, and so now I'm sort of dawdling towards the A1M. It's now 10 to 5, quarter to 5. I'm sort of thinking I might just hang around for a few more minutes before I start heading south. Mainly because I can't see many other, foreign drivers in the area now. I think all the drivers that don't live in the northeast have started to move away now. So it might be worth my while sticking around for a bit longer. But I was quite hopeful about the 120 job, which I obviously didn't get in the end. Yeah, I'm going to pull over in a minute and have a look for jobs, and let you know how it goes. Right, last video for today. I'm going to give you my stats and then a few reflections on how I feel today has gone. Before I do that, a couple of points that I forgot to tell you. During the afternoon, when I was looking for jobs out of the northeast, out of Washington, when I went onto the desktop on my iPad, a couple of jobs came through that didn't come through on my alerts on my phone. So I don't know if for how much time in that 4 hours it was broken rather than there was just no jobs. However, there was during that time, at least at the start of that time, plenty of jobs coming through from my home location. And so I don't think it was broken for the whole time. I do think there was a time, maybe an hour, where it wasn't sending through any jobs to the phone. Second thing I would like to observe is there was today a lot of jobs. There seemed to be a lot of jobs coming out for today and tomorrow from my home location. Much more than the northeast. I don't know if that's true, but it just felt like it. But it definitely was a higher number of jobs from my area of the country than northeast. The next thing is I did get almost offered a job on the way back. I got to an hour from Leeds, and I've been on a job that was picking up between 5:45 and 6:45 to go to Nottingham, which is about an hour and a half down. That would have been a perfect job for me. I bid £60, which was something like 82 miles loaded, and I got a call really quickly. I did put on the booking that it's 55 minutes before I get there. I don't think the guy saw that. So when I sort of explained I was an hour away from Leeds, but I could do a job for him, he said, "Oh, I'll have to check my customer and see if they're still going to be there." So before I did that, I did say, "Can you give me the full postcode and I'll tell you exactly how far away I am?" And when he did that, I was an hour away, and my ETA was 6:45, which was the same time as it was advertised for. So it was pick up between 5:45 and 6:45, and technically I could have got there in time, although it was very, very tight. Anyway, he didn't ring back, and the job got sold. So obviously he found somebody else to do it who was closer. But that was £60 would have made quite a big difference to my day. And it wouldn't have added much time on at all. Right, so my stats for today are: I did get some fuel this morning. So my new average fuel price for this week is 14.74 pence per mile. I've driven 412 miles today, 412. I will have worked for 14 hours by the time I get home. And I've earned £230, 230 from 2 CX jobs. My fuel cost today was £60 and 73 pence, so effectively £61, which means that my net earnings after accounting for fuel are £169, 169 today. When I was parked up at Durham and just checking who was still around, there wasn't very many non-northeast based drivers still in the area, and so I did feel at that point it was probably worth me sticking around for a bit longer. So I probably waited for about half an hour, so about 5:15, before I started heading south. And I gave myself the opportunity this afternoon to really kind of observe what it's like in the northeast. It was just really interesting to see what drivers were doing and where they went to sort of wait. You know, as drivers were coming in from the north, did they keep going past on the A1 or did they stop somewhere? And also, a lot of the local drivers didn't get jobs as well. So although I was looking primarily at the competition, I didn't really see any massive local driver work being picked up. So I think it was quiet for everybody. The last thing about today's reflections is I think, as I said this morning, it's about trying to be a bit different from the average driver, trying to distinguish myself from them. And I think giving myself the permission to sort of try new things out and be experimental, and then I think with that kind of added bit of creativity, I think it will benefit me in my situation to try and maximise what I do earn, because I'm in competition with drivers that all doing a very similar thing. And it's a question of me learning how to do that as much as anything else. So being comfortable with being, a bit irrational and a bit creative, and then learning about how to facilitate that and how to learn from it. So I feel today's been a really interesting day. I feel it's been valuable, and it hasn't been a disaster money-wise. That job to Durham basically paid most of my fuel, so I'm effectively 170 for the day. If I combine Monday and today, I will have averaged out over £200 so far per day. So it's still been a good enough week so far. Right, before I go, Friday is going to be a bit hit and miss for me. I might not be working at all, or I might do a little bit of work. But the main thing is, in the evening, me and my partner are going out to see a comedy show, because it's our 2-year anniversary of meeting up and being together. So that's going to be really nice. And I may or may not do any work in the morning. Okay, so thank you very much for listening to this video. I hope that you are being successful, however you choose to find that word for yourselves. Farewell, friends. Right, hello there. Here's a little treat for you.
Struck again by your eyes. One look giving in, it's been a while. Sucker punch, I'm not lost or hypnotized.
We've been here before. I don't want to be your champion. I don't want to be your girl. I'm not the one to call upon when you're alone in the world. I don't want to be your champion. I don't want to be your fool. I'm not going to drop it all for you. Got better things to do. I'm not your fool. Whoa, 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 feel unsatisfied by your side. Tore away from that dagger smile. Clean cut, I'm not lost or hypnotized. We've been here before. I don't want to be your champion. I don't want to be your girl. I'm not the one to call upon when you're alone in the world. I don't want to be your champion. I don't want to be your fool. I'm not gonna drop it all for you. Got better things to do. I'm not your fool. Whoa, I'm not your fool. Whoa, I'm not your fool. Whoa, I'm not your fool. Whoa. I'm not your fool. Whoa, oh, I'm not your fool. Whoa, I'm not your fool. Whoa, oh, I'm not your fool. Whoa. Right. Thank you for listening. I have to say, it does sound better in my head than it does when recorded. So please don't misunderstand me. This is not meant to be me showing off. This is me doing exactly the opposite. Cheers.